Hello and thank you for watching my video. This is going to be another video looking at the profession guide for Guild Wars 2 in 2015, and today we're going to be looking at the engineer. Now the engineer is a new profession to Guild Wars 2 and it's pretty versatile. It's got a few different kinds of build to the profession, and it's quite a nice profession generally. It is a bit different to some of the other professions we have in Guild Wars 2, and generally it's a bit of a condition damage, or using, I would say it uses a sort of a mechanic from Guild Wars 1 in which you had a profession called the Ritualist, and they would have spirits that you could put down in a position and they would fire. In Guild Wars 2, turrets, which we have here, we have rocket turret, a rifle, flame turret, net turret, or a thumper turret, or even the supply crate. They drop down and they stay in a position and they fire on their own. You know, you don't have to control them. You can do a little special special move. For example, if we look at the rocket turret, you can use you have then explosive rockets, and you can do that, and you can also detonate your rocket as well. So the engineer has some aspects from Guild Wars 1, but generally it tends to be a condition damage heavy build, but it has a number of different aspects that you can utilize very, very well indeed. So if we look at my engineer here, if you've watched my PvE video, you'll have seen all this stuff already. So we have properly condition damage, everything's for a condition damage build. And if we go into the trait line and the weapon skills, one of the interesting aspects is the limited weapons that an engineer has. There is only 3 weapons that they can have, and they can have a pistol, a rifle, and a shield, which is pretty limited. And then you come into the unique aspect of the engineer. The engineer has the ability, I'm going to come back to this later, the engineer has the ability to equip kits. This can be bomb kits, it can be grenade kit, you can equip a elixir gun, where you can equip a flamethrower, and you can equip a toolkit. So you actually have 2 weapon kits, or 3 weapon kits, sorry, and 2 device kits. I believe it's just the 2 device kits, bomb and grenade. And you also have the ability as well, you can equip a med kit. So you have a lot of kits that you can equip, and what that does, it changes your skills. It gives you grenades and you can then launch them. You can swap to bombs and it'll give you all the bomb kits, or you can have elixir gun, and if you swap to the elixir gun you get all new skills for elixir gun. So it's going to be difficult for me to go through all of the different skills because obviously you get so many different ones with the engineer. I will go into and say things like the toolkit are excellent if you want to have an extra shield, because you've got this gear shield that you can block for 3 seconds, and if you have for example if you have a shield here, you can block attacks using that skill here. You can then equip a kit and then block more attacks again, so you can really do a lot of defensive damage. You know, you can really defensive damage. You can really block a lot of attacks. You can sustain a lot of damage without actually, getting hit. You're only using 2 shield skills there. So the engineer has the ability to be a bit defensive as well, but generally it has a lot of abilities. You've got a lot of poison, or this is racial traits, but things like you've got here slick shoes, which you can knock down your foe. Again, you've got the kits, you've got the ability to throw out mines, which cause knockback. You've got Elixir C, which can remove conditions. You've got the ability to drink elixirs, which again, elixirs are a unique aspect for the engineer, and they have the ability to do certain things. You can even, for example, toss them up and convert conditions for your allies as well, using the special F2 skill. So these are all very, very unique ones as well. You've got Elixir B, that you can get boons. This gives you swiftness and fury. So these are all things that really do give you certain things. We have here as well, Elixir S actually gives you stealth. So you can use that here, and that'll give you stealth, one of the few stealthy skills that an engineer can have. So there are a number of different skills that the engineer has. It has this versatility that the engineer can go and pretty much cover and be any sort of role in Guild Wars 2. You can go with the shields if you want to block attacks and be that tanky role. You can be the condition damage using grenades and bomb kits, or you can be this sort of static, role of the turrets. And again, each aspect have a different, regarding PvP, world versus world, PvE. Each role, the engineer has a different sort of focus in each particular profession. If you look at the PvP side, engineers are extremely popular. The turret build is very, very popular at the moment, as is the Celestial Rifle build, which you would have seen in the last major ESL tournament. You had Orange Logo against the Abjured. Both sides ran a Celestial Ellie. So that's a rifle using a Celestial Amulet and going with things like slick shoes, causing knockdowns, and generally CCing an opponent. But yeah, generally in PvE, it's good throughout the world. You don't see the engineer in dungeons so much, and the primary reason is because of the lack of DPS that the engineer tends to have. There isn't many power skills that the engineer can really go for. The flamethrower potentially could fill that role, but it's really not that effective if you swap to the flamethrower. It was very good if you ever want to tag a lot of enemies for an event. Then this flamethrower is very, very good. I remember doing the in the Cursed Shore. If I show you on the map here, if you ever want to do one of the events that used to be used for farming, the Penitent Path, where you have the Penitent Waypoint and the Shelter's Gate, there's events that pop around those two points. Using the flamethrower is very, very effective at tagging a lot of mobs indeed. So generally the engineer doesn't have too much DPS. It isn't used in dungeons. I have done some dungeon runs with me actually in there, and it's pretty effective. Especially for some of the bosses, you can do a lot of damage and really cleave down these bosses quickly. They're just generally not taken because they don't have too much DPS. It is a bit of a shame, but that's the current meta as it is. So let's talk about the engineer. How does it feel to play? I actually love playing my engineer. I have so much fun using grenades and throwing grenades. And then going in with the bomb kit and you're doing a load of bombs. You then got your pistol and shield skill, or dual pistols if you want. You've got the supply crate. There's so many different ways you can play an engineer. I really have a lot of fun. In PvP, the engineer was the first profession I actually maxed, got 200 ranked arena wins. It's also the one, if you look at my PvP stats, particularly for ranked wins, it almost covers a quarter of my it covers a fifth at least of my wins, 385 ranked arena wins, just on my engineer. And I enjoy playing with engineer. In fact, in world versus world, I go around on this engineer here. He is a condition damage build, and I do love being on top of towers and being able to lob grenades and into sort of at an enemy Zerg coming in, really give them a lot of condition damage and make sure that they suffer as much as possible. So what else can we talk about? Let's talk about the traits. The traits you want to know about, this is the sort of traits you can go into. You've got the ability to create a bomb when you dodge, which is quite handy. So if we see here, we just do a little dodge. Oh, that's only in combat you actually do that. So we won't have that for now. We have the explosions have a chance to cause bleeding. Again, if you watch my PvE build, you would have seen the majority of this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Things like accelerated pack turrets, very useful in PvP. The other things that you can have on here, bombs and mines have a larger explosion radius. Generally not taken because if you're stacking correctly, you'll get that. You don't really need to have a big, large explosion radius. Shrapnel is very, very good. You can do a lot of bleeding with a long duration on that as well. If you're running elixirs, obviously acidic elixirs is something you want to consider. You reset a lot of mines when you get struck beneath the 25% threshold of health. Critical hits apply burning. If you've got a lot of burning already on you anyway, then things like explosive powder is actually worthwhile taking with you. But generally, if you're on your own, running around the world, then critical hits inflict burning. I mean, that's a 3,000 damage burn that you're going to get. So that's something you want to take along with you. Explosions cause vulnerability, so it's pretty handy because you are going to do more damage the more vulnerable they get. And with Grenadier, you get an extra grenade that you're throwing out. So again, pretty handy indeed. because that combines well with things like critical hits, inflict burning and bleeding. With that extra grenade, you get that extra bleeding as well. Okay, so we move into the firearms track. Obviously, precision and condition damage. Critical hits have the chance to cause bleeding. So not only that, you get you've got so many different things that can cause bleeding. You've got here explosions have the chance to cause bleeding. Critical hits have the chance to cause bleeding. You get a reduced recharge on pistol skills. If you have rifles, then obviously rifle barrels is one to go with. You can get swiftness on critical hits, but generally I don't see the point. Sitting duck you can take if you want to take a net kit, because you want to. That's the thing that can immobilize the net turret. Sorry, and that will allow you to get that extra with that sitting duck. Apply crippled and vulnerability to enemies you immobilize. So that's the only immobilize. I mean, it does have on the bomb kit the glue bomb. So if you immobilize them, you will cause them vulnerability and cripple as well. Again, if you're using flamethrower or elixir gun, the fire forward trigger is something you want to take with you. Critical hit chances increase against foes that are below the threshold. So if they're below 50% health, you'll get an extra 10% critical chance. You have a chance to cause vulnerability on critical hits. So the more you crit, you get vulnerability, you get the chance to cause bleeding, you get explosions causing vulnerability, critical hits inflicting burning, you're getting explosions causing bleeding, you're getting all these conditions on a critical hit. Damage is then increased against bleeding foes, and it's increased for each condition on a foe. So the more conditions they have, the more the damage you're going to do. So generally these are pretty handy to go for. There's nothing in the master trait line, pistol shots, not really. If I was using a flamethrower, I would take Juggernaut. I don't have a rifle, and so I don't need any of those two there. So that's why I've actually got two in this trait line. Bunker down, really ineffective. I don't think it's worthwhile taking. And burn supplier longer. It's effective if you're on your own, but generally the increased damage for each condition on a foe is more handy than the increased burn duration. Okay, so as you can see, we've actually swapped to we're in PvP now, and the reason I've done that is because I wanted to show you the difference that we have for PvP. So if we come to our trait build, you notice obviously I wanted to talk about inventions. This is my turret build. You've seen it if you go into my PvP builds video, you'll see the full spec of it. But I wanted to talk about, obviously, for the engineer, this is one of the major bonuses and functions of the engineer. So these are the different things that you can run. Protection's quite handy, but it's a long cooldown, 20-second cooldown. If that was halved, protective shield would be a vital one to take with you. Release of barrels of grenades when you take falling damage. You take 50% less falling, so obviously if you're doing things like jumping puzzles, very handy to take that. But we go with reduces damage dealt to turrets. Obviously 33% reduction, so very, very handy indeed. When you're running this turret build, you take less damage when you're knocked down or stunned. Quite handy against Hambo warriors or particular guardians that run hammer, but really inefficient otherwise. Gain power based on your toughness, well, don't really need to work that. You become invisible when immobilized, a very handy one for evasion. I think a few celestial LEs will take, NGs will take that. We move into the masterwork title, but before that, I didn't actually talk. We get a regeneration when we're struck below 25%, which is a long 13-second regeneration, and it's a 10-second cooldown. So very, very good to have that low health response system. We then get automated medical response. So all heal skills recharge when struck below 25%. This is very, very good indeed. And my God, this has saved me so many times in PvP. If I've got healing turret up, okay, if I've used skill 6, okay, it's a 15-second cooldown. All right, so if I blow up the turret, it's a 19-second cooldown before I get my turret. If I then drop to 25% health, suddenly it's gonna come back again. Well, I didn't really show that there. But generally, if you get hit go down to less than 25% health, you will get your healing skill will bounce and become sort of back into play and really become vital again. Just for the extra one, we get power based on our healing attribute. So healing power gets converted to power is 10%. But we got turrets are self-repairing. Very, very good indeed to take with you. You gain toughness when wielding a shield, so that's quite handy if you are wielding a shield. I believe that counts also if you wield. I'm just have to double check. If you go to the toolkit and then you use if we click on toolkit, when you have gear shields, I wonder if that actually does anything to it, to our trade system. No. Okay. All right. I thought it might have done something. I might be wrong. If you feel free to correct me on that. But let's go back to the inventions. So we've got reinforced shields, power shoes, movement speeds increased by 25%. Elite supplies. So supply crate has extra supplies, but we've got this turrets are self-repairing. So you could go with the elite supplies because obviously with the supply crate that's quite a handy drop, and you get a few different extra drops in there. Very rarely do we see this one actually used, but mortar damage is increased by 20%. You've got mortars there, mortar skills. So I'd be fascinated to let's try that. So we've got, if we swap that over to elite supplies, let's do a crate drop. What do we get here? So we've got all these different. We've got net turret, rifle turret. We've got healing turret, flame turret. So not really too much difference there. We've got a lot. I think we've got a few extra health kits. I mean, look at all the boons I'm getting because I'm traded for that. But we get sort of quite good. And then if we put that back as a rocket turret. So these are quite handy indeed. So let's go back up to, sorry, wrong one. Go back to our PvP build. And we talk about the final one. We have bombs, explosions, heal allies. Handy. Fortified turrets. You'll see some turret NGs will run fortified turrets, where for 4 seconds they get this reflected shield. Very handy because you can stand inside one of those fortified turrets. You get a shield on them, reflects projectiles. Very, very handy indeed. I prefer to run the rifle turrets because they really do give increased range and damage. And in so much, in fact, if I have been on a point, I've left my turret, so I would leave rocket turret, rifle turret, thumper turret. I'll leave them on my on a point, run to like sort of mid, for example, and a thief might try to backcap me, but my turrets are so powerful they will actually down a thief on their own. So it's very handy to run these rifle turret builds. So that is the inventions, and that's been me talking about the general play of the engineer. The engineer is extremely versatile. It is one of those professions that can be sort of this multiple different effect. If you are in ore and you're going farming, you can equip a flamethrower because you can use skill 1 and it really just you cleave down a load of enemies and you're getting tags on everything. Very handy to take that indeed. I generally don't run the elixir gun, but I also I will run, if you see my condition in the PvE builds, I run grenades because again for conditions they're very, very impressive. Celestial Energy is quite meta at the moment in PvP. I generally don't think Celestial Energy is... my personal opinion is, I don't rate Celestial Energies that high. They have a little bit of good strength to decap, but, alright, okay, I'm a turret NG, but the reason I'm a turret NG is because it's far, far overpowered. I hate turret NGs if I'm playing against them. And so you know what they say, if you can't beat them, join them. And generally I find turret NGs very, very easy to play. There are many people that I will play with, they will just leave me to hold home because they know as a turret NG I'm going to be pretty defensible. The only issue will come if I do get overwhelmed by other enemies and lose home, then I am going to struggle to try and recap if I'm against a bunker for a guardian or bunker warrior. So generally, the engineer is a fun class to play. It is very versatile. You've got many different options, many different kits. That's the unique ability of the engineer. And generally, I love playing engineer. It's one of my most played characters. You'll notice here that almost 25% of the matches, so almost 1,000 matches, you can say, 980 matches I've played as engineer. I have fun playing engineer in PvP. I have fun playing engineer in PvE. Perhaps not so as in dungeons because it's a little bit more tricky, but my engineer, I love playing him. I've got 3 engineers. I have my little Azura, who's my PvE guy. This is my PvP engineer because it's set up to be turrets. And generally, I have fun. I like playing the engineer. I think it's one that's fairly easy to learn. I don't think it's too difficult, and generally because of the versatility of the profession, you can go around and do whatever you want. You know, you can be different options, and you can trade out for different things. So I'm hoping you found this useful. You know, getting into PvP, PvE, world versus world, engineer is a handy one to take with you. And I would highly recommend engineer being one of the top professions in Guild Wars 2 for 2015. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.